Okay, I'm really excited to introduce our guys, our lunchtime entertainment. And more seriously, you know, these are some really smart guys in the local SEO space, and I'm really excited to get them together to talk about what's happening. And so Andrew Shotland from LocalSEOGuide and David Mihm from Moz. And so I'm just going to give it to you guys. Here you go.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you. Well, good afternoon. We're going to be talking while you guys are dining, so feel free to pay attention if you feel like it. The food's not that good. Laura asked us to have a little chat about local SEO. As some of you may know, I do local SEO consulting for companies that are trying to get more traffic out of Google. And Dave has done various things like that in the past, and now is at Moz. So I think we're going to try to talk about issues that we think might be of interest to you guys on the local SEO and Google SEO front. With that, Dave, why don't you tell us a little bit about what recently just happened? Your company Get Listed was purchased by Moz, then SEO Moz, and now is part of Moz, right? Yeah. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, so I've done, as you said, I've done local SEO consulting mostly for small businesses since about, 2004, 2005, and about 4 years ago started sort of a side project called Get Listed, which was basically designed to be the first touch point for businesses who had no SEO expertise, walking them through some steps they could take to rank better, and sold that to SEO Moz in November, and so now I'm actively kind of working on the integration of our technology with their code base and then building on that. Moz, as a wider company, does SEO software, and now as of last week, we've layered in some social elements as well, looking at things like brand mentions, tweets. We have another product called Follower Wonk that analyzes tweets and kind of optimizes when to post what content to whom. So we're kind of layering in some of these more social features over time, and I'll be hopefully tying all of this stuff down to a level that will be useful and actionable by small businesses.
Cool. So it's kind of interesting for me to see someone from Moz at this conference, at the Kelsey conferences, which are also big little search shows, because traditionally that kind of company doesn't show up at this kind of a show. And I'm curious if you're seeing kind of what I'm seeing, which is this almost explosion in SMB SEO demand, and what it's looking like to you.
Yeah, I think awareness has, just completely exploded is the right word, of SEO. I would say 4 years ago when we started Get Listed, 5 or 10% of the SMB audience might have been able to identify what the acronym SEO stood for, and now it's like, oh my God, everybody knows about it, everybody is interested in it. I think at least the savvier SMBs have kind of woken up to the fact that search is far more likely than social media to actually bring them customers in the door. There have been several studies about how small businesses are primarily using social media to try to gain customers, and that's not really why those prospective customers are on social media. It's not the best place to kind of prospect. And so consequently, a lot of people are now saying, oh, well, where's the ROI in social, and are discovering, oh yeah, well, there's this thing called Google that drives, probably the majority of traffic for every small business on the planet, and this is where customers are actually telling Google they're looking for something that I sell. So I think the demand on the SMB side for SEO, and to some extent SEM services as well, they're kind of blending in a lot of ways, especially on mobile devices, and that's definitely on the very steady increase.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is the percentage of SMBs now who have been officially burned by an SEO consultant has gone through the roof, which means now they're ready to actually hire a real person and pay real money and demand real results, which is nothing but a boon for people who have the ability to do this stuff. And I don't know if the demand's infinite, but it's just on the inbound inquiries I get, it's just like that. Okay, let's talk about SMBs for a second. Let's talk about Google and local search publishers, which has always been my favorite subject when it comes to SEO, because I don't know if anyone saw the Julian Assange review of Eric Schmidt's new book. And the subtitle was The Banality of Do No Evil, or Don't Be Evil. So there's been this huge tension between Google and local search publishers, IYPs, people trying to grab traffic out of Google, and Google kind of, either on purpose or just by design or accident, squeezing these guys out of the results. What are you seeing happening over the last?
Yeah, I think that's totally, that trend is also increasing recently. I think, especially with the release of the new Google Maps at Google I/O a couple weeks ago, where we're now seeing mobile interfaces that Google first pioneered on mobile devices are actually now migrating into desktop search. Which is not a great thing if you are an IYP, because everything is based around physical brick and mortar locations associated with web content. And so if all you have on your website, if you're an IYP or a directory publisher, is a web page about a business, that's no longer going to be good enough, even on the desktop. With some of these sort of more flat interfaces, Google Maps now doesn't even have a list view associated with it by default. The carousel now appears at the top of an increasing number of searches, which was the iPad interface, now moving over to desktop. So it's pretty clear that Google is really, again, interested in physical locations having a web presence rather than web pages about a physical location. So.
Right. And one of my favorite aspects of this new Google Maps design, this default, like, it's not a list, it's just a cluster of spots, is that actually was an Apple Maps. The default way Apple Maps came out, so everyone's all crapping at Apple Maps, but Google's following exactly what they're doing. Right. But it really gets back to, for businesses, it still means on a mobile device, you still have to be number one. There's not a ranking, but there's still someone who shows up first. But for publishers, what do you think? Like, how do they combat that?
Right. I think publishers have to. I think we've seen a positive transition from a lot of publishers moving into more of the service-oriented space rather than sort of selling native advertising products and defining success based on number of eyeballs that a listing gets on a particular directory. And I think if you are a directory publisher and you don't have a brand out there, I think Google is moving very heavy in the brand direction. If you don't have a brand that consumers recognize, even in a local market, you're better off helping a small business augment his brand, whether that's offering a well-optimized, responsive mobile website, whether it's helping them figure out their social media editorial calendar, these types of more service-oriented things. That's how you're going to build loyalty with the SMB. And I think the days of relying on monetizing a web property in the directory space in local are definitely waning.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say they're waning. It's consistently challenging. I think there's still
you're fighting against the current, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The writing's been on the wall, as you said. Dead fingers walking, right? Several years ago. Yeah. Incredibly satirical blog post. And so I think, if you constantly want to bang your head against the wall, for the next decade, you could go that route. It seems to me that I'd rather figure out how to build a great reputation, a great brand among SMBs, right, to help their long-term presence.
So when David and I have brunch every 6 months or something, we talk about stupid stuff like this, right? We don't talk about sports or anything like that. We're just like, okay, what's going on in local search? And one thing David said to me, I think 6 months ago, is like, SMBs don't need to do SEO. They just need a really good, simple website, and that's all they need. Because what did these flash say, Neil? Like, how many SMBs have crappy websites? 99.9%.
Right.
And so,
like 50% don't have a phone number in HTML or something like that, right? Right.
And so so I look back, because I do a lot of work with IYPs that build websites for SMBs. They slap it on a subdomain or something like that. And I looked at all of them I've ever worked on in my career, and to this day, they're just crap, right? They're maybe they do okay things, have a picture or a phone number, but they're really junky. Like, there's kind of no aesthetic to it. It's just slapped up there for the most part. So I want to talk about that. Like, what do you think really? Where's the opportunity in that area?
Right. Well, there are so many pieces of low-hanging fruit from an SEO perspective that if the back-end technology has been built correctly, require very little technical input from the SMB or from a junior level provisioner at a directory or an IYP. So very basic things like figuring out what their main category is, what city they're located in, and including stuff like that in the homepage title tag, right? Those are very, very basic SEO tactics that a lot of these off-the-rack site builders just don't even take that very simple step. I think from a what customers want standpoint, there's all these great, especially in the restaurant vertical, there's all these great studies of, hey, people want directions, they want a menu, they want either a phone number or a link to book it on OpenTable, and none of the restaurant sites have even thought about this very basic user experience of a very simple website. So it just seems to me that there is still a lot of very low-hanging fruit out there from an SEO, from a UX perspective, that a lot of the site builders just aren't addressing, and there's no excuse for it with WordPress VIP. I just saw a new thing on TechCrunch a couple weeks ago called Barley, which looks really promising. It's a WYSIWYG editor live on the web for people who are logged in. So there are an increasing number of fairly sophisticated platforms that are pretty easily spun out that do offer much better sort of low-hanging fruit SEO out of the box.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. The thing that surprises me is there's all these thousands, maybe millions of SMB websites built. And so some platforms, the biggest ones, probably have, I don't know, several 100,000 under management. And I never hear of anyone doing this big data thing with these sites. Hey, we figured out, like, if all of you make your phone number orange, you'll get 10 more calls, right? And so it seems like there's a real opportunity to step up for that, because it'll help with SEO. Like, you can use that stuff to kind of figure out, well, we know if we add an image here, we get more image search, or if we add a word here, we raise rankings more. But even just with conversion, it seems like there's nothing being done that I can see. On the mobile side of things, I see that more often. There's guys who are mobile app builders who just we just give you the same app over and over again, and we optimize it.
Right, and the site optimization, not necessarily the SEO, but the site optimization experience. I mean, given all of the extra signals that mobile gives you with location, click to call, clicks for directions, these types of things that may or may not be definite sort of loop closure, but at least an indication of a warm lead. All of these things that mobile gives you that a desktop experience wouldn't necessarily do, just lend themselves to much deeper analysis that can be incredibly powerful for increasing conversion. So yeah, the opportunities are there, but very few people do seem to be taking advantage of it at scale.
Yeah. So one of the things that in the local SEO world, there's this notion of data consistency that's important. So this is one of the things that David's Get Listed did really well, was kind of identify, hey, your phone number's out of whack over here, right, on yp.com, so you gotta go fix it. And if you don't fix it, it may impede your ability to rank well in Google, because Google's kind of confused what your phone number is. And yet there still seems to be the biggest problem with a lot of these SMB sites. And a lot of the directories who have, I was having a conversation with, he's not here, but someone at this conference about how they saw that the aggregator companies out there, locally, asking how they're stepping on the data when you submit it, and you might call it Joe's Pizza Co. or Joe's Pizza Company, but when Axiom, let's say, spits it out, they spits it out as Co, Joe's Pizza, right? And that's screwing up everyone in Google. Where's the opportunity in that area to sort of improve things?
Right. Well, I think Yext has done a nice job. Single Platform has done a nice job with some of this stuff. I think, as Will Scott pointed out earlier this morning, there's still the issue of duplicate listings, or listings that don't match up exactly what you're submitting with Yext, where it doesn't necessarily override the bad data that's out there. So I do think there's still something there. I think I'm hopeful that the aggregators are sort of getting onto more modern platforms that allow for more than 30 characters in a business title, that allow for more than one category called, business services or something like that, where you can get a little bit more granular. I also think Google's backend has significantly improved in the last year. I don't know what you've seen with your clients, but I think the report a problem feature directly within Google Maps, for example, the speed with which the map maker community reviews edits that come in through the web. The support. There's now customer support. You can get it at Google Plus for Google Locals, whatever it's called. So that's all improved dramatically. So I actually think that even if the data problem isn't solved all that well out in the ecosystem, that Google is at least getting smarter about how to sort of piece these various strands together and make a complete listing.
So which brings up a good topic. So we were talking about this banality of don't be evil thing, where slowly but surely Google is, what would I gotta say, software is eating the world? Like, well, no, software's not eating the world. Google is kind of eating the world, right? Google has run by software. Tell me what you're seeing. Like, what's kind of making you sweat when you look at the Google dashboard?
I don't think anything's making me sweat, but I do think that there
hot flashes.
There are certain privacy issues that may be getting raised as Google. So I don't know how many of you have seen the new Google Places dashboard, which still is not live for more than probably 10% of businesses in the U.S. But it's essentially, if you're listing information up top in one of these modules, and then basically every other module on the page is some sales pitch for another Google product, like AdWords Express, which has recently undergone a pretty streamlined, or has become much more streamlined to set up. There's Google Offers, and it's not hard to make this, believe that the next thing on the list will be, accept Google Wallet payments at your register. And so the ability for Google to track someone from a search to a click on an ad to a payment to then potentially redeeming an offer to then becoming a loyal customer. Google has this product that they seem to have mothballed called Punched that we may see kind of pop up again as a loyalty service. So I do think that Google, this was rumored a year ago in the Wall Street Journal, the Business Builder dashboard 2 years ago, thank you, 2 years ago, in the Wall Street Journal, this Business Builder dashboard that's kind of the one-stop shop for small businesses to not only acquire new customers, but convert them and then convert them into loyal customers. That entire life cycle is becoming more and more complete. And when you think about the opportunities that Plus allows with maybe potentially automatic segmentation of customers at various stages in the buying cycle into circles, messaging specifically to those circles, that Google really is getting very, very close to this complete web business in a box. Yeah.
It seems to be very similar to what they do with Android, which is, so Google Wallet has really not done much as far as we can tell. It's kind of been a bust in a way, but they have enough resources they can just keep slowly fixing the problem, and sooner or later they'll get it right, and they have enough momentum that as long as they get it right at some point, there'll be enough people to adopt it. So it does feel like it's slowly kind of, the boiling the frog, or as it were, something like that, right? Are you looking at it?
I guess the time signal. Yeah.
Oh, like I said, we're finished. So thanks for joining.
Sorry to interrupt your lunch.